I'm here with Dan Huttenlocher. He's founding dean of Cornell Tech, and Michael Bloomberg, the 108th mayor of New York City and founder of Bloomberg LP, which of course owns Bloomberg Television. And it's a big day for both of these gentlemen because Cornell Tech is dedicating its new campus on Roosevelt Island today. Mike, let me start with you because Cornell Tech is a project that took less than 7 years to come to fruition, unheard of in this day and age. And this idea for an applied science school came about when you were mayor.
Well, December of 2010, we put out a proposal to an invitation to universities to come and compete to build a campus, a graduate engineering campus on Roosevelt Island, which is in the middle of the East River, Midtown, and the rest is history. And then yesterday, our dean here opened it, really. And he's had students for over a year actually working, getting their degrees, but the campus itself just opened
The campus itself is just opening, and you're dedicating the space. But what I thought was fascinating was you wanted to diversify New York City's economy. You crowdsourced CEOs and tech leaders on what would make a difference in their ability to grow the business. And this is what they said.
Well, I think we know where the world is going. There's going to be an awful lot more focus on data and automation. It's one of the great challenges we have, how we create jobs for people outside of that industry. But we have to compete as a city and as a country with the rest of the world for the best and the brightest. Graduate education is where people who are going to be real professionals, they're the best of the best, get the skills they need to create the things that make our lives better, make our lives more enjoyable, make our lives longer. And Cornell Tech with Technion and Israeli University are going to train a lot of the people. And what's good for New York City is people tend to create companies where they went to school.
Yes.
So if you look, Stanford created a lot of companies in Silicon Valley because the people that went to Stanford lived there and wanted that. Now we're trying to do the same thing here, and I think we're up to 38 new companies already, and we've only had one class which wasn't even on the campus.
Right, 4 academic years, right, Dan?
Yeah, so we had 4 academic years and 3 years of a program that helped people get companies founded.
Now, Cornell Tech, of course, didn't wait for a campus to be built to get started. As we mentioned, 4 academic years outside of the campus. You're actually borrowing space from Google in downtown Manhattan. So talk a little bit about the ways in which Google influenced the school's culture and perhaps deepened the mission.
Absolutely. So it was amazingly generous of Google. You know, space is sort of the ultimate commodity in any organization, and for them to move their own engineers out and free up space for us was incredible and let us get off the ground before we had the physical campus. It also gave us an opportunity to be right in the heart of Chelsea. There's not only Google, but lots of tech companies. And when we were particularly small, it was very important to be there in the center of everything. Now that we're starting to get some critical mass, we're able to start attracting people out to Roosevelt Island. But if we had started on Roosevelt Island with the literally 7 students that we started with at the beginning, nobody would have come to see us. So it was just unbelievable to be in that location and be there working with Google and other tech companies.
And working in Google's offices allowed you to have the students work side by side with engineers at Google. So you're breaking down silos, breaking down walls, and that informed the way the building developed on Roosevelt Island as well.
Absolutely. And you know, we've long had, starting with Google, but with many other companies, we've had our students work side by side, not just with engineers from companies, but with product managers, product developers, marketing, because developing digital products and services today takes not just the technological expertise, but also the expertise in understanding what market you're building a product for. And so we bring those together in our students, but also by bringing in practicing engineers, marketing people, and others from industry to work with our students.
Talk a little bit about these 38 companies that the Cornell Tech grads have founded. They're all based in New York City?
I think 94% of them are here in the city, which is almost all of them. They range from everything from companies that are making hardware. There's a company that came out of, we have a program called the Jacobs Runway Program, which is in the Jacobs Technion Cornell Institute, which is part of the campus that's in collaboration with Technion. There's a company that came out of that program that makes an AI-based baby monitor. And one of the things about first-time parents in particular is they tend to go into the baby too often, and they actually disturb they think they're helping, but they're not. And so it's great to have this AI tool that's advising you about when you need to go in and actually get into the room. So that's sort of an example on one end, kind of consumer electronic device, all the way to things that are medical devices that help patients who have lupus. So we have everything from medical devices to consumer electronics to software applications.
And of course, there's room there to dovetail with the Cornell Medical School, which is here in New York City as well. Mike, former Citigroup CEO Vikram Pandit told us that technology could put 30% of banking jobs at risk down the road. Talk about how when you are founding an institution, how do you encourage the advance of AI, of robotics, with an eye towards creating new jobs? Because a lot of that innovation will steal the jobs that we have.
Well, if you want to have better products that are more affordable to people, you have to do things more efficiently. Technology can do that. The great challenge that we have around the world with every country is that technology, and it doesn't have to be very fancy AI, it can be simple stuff like just using the web to transmit information. Or being able to call a cab more efficiently, and those kinds of things. They are destroying jobs, and we've got to create jobs to replace those. And the great challenge is some of the jobs require great technological skills and intellect, like the students get at Cornell Tech. But there's an awful lot of people who aren't going to have that opportunity. You don't want that opportunity. And so we've got to create jobs for them, whether they're in the trades. We're always going to need plumbers and carpenters and electricians. And those people have pricing power because you can't farm things out. We're also going to need people that go and provide home health care, where you really have to have a student, a caregiver right in front of the patient. There's infrastructure which we need to construct, and so how society handles those things is going to be one of the defining moments of this generation.
And of course, ultimately, it's about jobs. It's about creating tomorrow's jobs and giving young people a path forward to do so here in New York City, which brings me to DACA. Mike, you've been vocal in calling out the president for failing a test of leadership when he punted what to do with the Dreamers program to Congress without coming up with his own solution. Why is resolving the fate of 800,000 people, these 800,000 people, so critical to our economy?
Let me explain who these 800,000 people are.
Please.
They are young kids who were brought here. Some of them couldn't even walk. They were carried in their mother's arms to this country. Technically, I suppose they did come here without a visa, probably without a passport as well. But to say that they're criminals is ridiculous. The second thing is, these people have now been here for a long time. They've been assimilated. Many of them have jobs and are creating value to us and creating other jobs for people who've been here for a lot longer. And to throw out 800,000 people who are really people we need to compete in the world and to create those jobs that I talked about we need to replace technology jobs is just not a smart thing to do. I think we need more immigrants. Every study shows immigrants don't take American jobs, they create more American jobs, they start companies, and they do things that American workers just don't want to do or don't have the skills for. We live in a global world, whether you like it or not. And if we want to have more jobs for America, we have to have more global trade, we have to have more people coming here. And we are in competition with other parts of the world. China is doing everything that we are walking away from. And it's a very big market, and it's not the only market. It's not our only competitor. And America still is the land of the free, the home of the brave, and the greatest country. And where most people, when they vote with their feet, come to America.
Yeah.
But you want to maintain that. And we've got to compete on the world stage. We've got to make this a more attractive place to come, a more welcoming place to come. And if we're going to have jobs for the people that have been here for generations, we need the next generation to come from overseas.
How do you see it being resolved, do you think?
Well, my hope would be that the president listens to people and understands. I actually think he probably will, because there's so many people that think this would be not a smart thing to do, to throw out these people. And you see that the president, yesterday he met with 3 Democrats, which got a lot of news. I don't know why that should be that unique, but it is for this
in this day and age.
And for this administration, it certainly is. And so maybe he's going to start to listen a little more. And the things that we've been doing for an awful long time, we can always make them better. But they are things that got America to where it is today. It's still the greatest country. And to walk away from those things, to try to return to a mythical past that was never there, is just not what we want to do. We've reduced worldwide poverty by 50% in the last 2 decades through global trade. America has made enormous progress in helping people go up the economic ladder. There's still income inequality. There are still people that haven't been included. But just because you haven't included everybody doesn't mean you aren't doing the right things. You just maybe have to do more of the right things.
Dan, talk a little bit about how this affects the world of academia, because does the lack of clarity on dreamer status and also other immigrants affected by the president's immigration restrictions, how does it affect Cornell's ability to attract and retain students and faculty?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, I think that the DACA students are this amazing sort of microcosm of what makes America great. Mm-hmm. These are people who, by and large, as Mike said, not only came here not of their own free will generally because they were very, very young. These are people who came here with almost nothing. And through education, the ones who are students are really getting themselves into the position where they can become leaders of industry, of social good in this country and around the world. And I think that the big challenge for universities today is whenever you have students with some ambiguity in their status, it's extremely complicated. I mean, already universities in the United States attract the very, very best people from around the world. Many of them are here on student visas. Yes. Many of them are citizens. Many are permanent residents. But it's already this sort of melting pot for the world. We attract the very best and brightest people here because we have such strong universities. And in general, we need to keep those people here. If you look, for example, at the tech industry and how many companies in the tech industry in the last 20 years have been founded or co-founded by immigrants, by people who came to the United States to study, stayed here, and created companies that have literally, driven the NASDAQ, driven the indices, driven job creation. So I think it's very, very complicated now for university administrations to try to handle something where there's this ambiguity around
Scarlet,
status.
if you look at where new jobs come from, they come from innovation that comes out of universities. One of America's greatest strengths has been the fact that we have the greatest universities in the world, not all of them, but the vast preponderance of them here.
Cornell among them.
Cornell among them.
And Hopkins.
And Johns Hopkins, my alma mater. Cornell actually came from Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, Emancipation Proclamation, built the railroads across the country, and 7 land-grant schools, yes. And those were the first of the big universities that really let lots of people get an education and create things. But if we were to lose the advantage we have with the best universities to other places, other industries, other technologies are all going to be invented elsewhere, and we're never going to get it back. We just cannot do this. And you have to have these universities open to people from around the world. You want the best and the brightest to come here. Not all stay. Some go home and help other universities. But a lot of them stay. That's the lifeblood of America.
As proved by the 38 companies that Cornell Tech grads have founded. Thank you both, gentlemen. Michael Bloomberg, of course, 108th Mayor of New York City and founder of Bloomberg LP, and Dan Huttenlocher, founding dean of Cornell Tech. Now, Bloomberg is hosting our Sooner Than You Think Tech Conference at the new Cornell Tech campus on Roosevelt Island later today. We'll be bringing you interviews from that event, and both Mike and the dean will be speaking at that event. They'll be giving welcoming remarks.